the National Women Council in Ireland are calling for a law that ensures that when there's a domestic violence in a home, that the abusers are removed instead of the survivors. In Ireland, most of the time when there's a domestic violence, which in most cases women are the victim, they are removed from the home with their children, taken to most of the women refuge centers. We have a lot of women and children refuge centers across Ireland, and in most cases, these women who are being abused by their partners or husbands are removed with their children to these safe homes where they now live in most cases. But a lot of the time, it also means that those women and children become homeless because now they are taken from their family homes and they are at risk of being homeless, and now they have to look for their own homes. And even with the housing crisis, they most of the time are stuck in these women and refuge centers, or after that they don't, when it is time for them to leave as well, they cannot find houses and they will be the one losing. So the Irish, the National Women Council in Ireland are saying that we want a situation where it is not the women and children that are taken from their family home, but the abuser that will be removed from the home. That's the kind of law they want the government to bring in. So I'm going to read what was reported in RT about this, but I feel that it is a welcome idea, even though there are processes involved in this, and it is also important to note that even some men are victims as well. That just has to be said. But as someone with experience, I know that most of the time it is women and children, women that are at the receiving end of this all the time. So let me just read what is in the news here. The National Women's Council have called for stronger legal protection that would allow women and children in abusive situation to remain safely in their family home, and for perpetrators to be removed instead. According to a paper published by the organization Women Seeking to Escape Domestic Violence with Their Children are faced with stark choices, which often mean having to choose between homelessness or returning to their abusers. I know this as well for a fact that in most cases when women go to women and children refuge centers, and they don't want to be out of their home, they miss their home and all of that. And in most cases, most of those women will return back to that home, to their abuser, because they don't want to be homeless. So that puts them at a higher risk as well. So that's why the Women Council of Ireland are calling for this kind of law to make sure that they are not the ones removed from their family home, but that the abusers are the ones that are taken out of the home. The document form part of a submission which will inform the development of Child and Family Homelessness Action Plan by the Department of Taoiseach and the Department of Housing, Local Government and Heritage. The paper has found that when women make the decision to leave, they move from one emergency accommodation center or refuge to another, and face systems such as justice, housing, and social protection that do not coordinate with each other. So true. And I know this from experience. It's noted that family homelessness is gendered, where with more than 56% of families in homelessness headed by a lone parent, the vast majority of whom are women. Okay, some groups of women are much more likely to feel the brunt of housing crisis, such as lone parent, travelers, Roma women in international protection. Okay, the paper makes specific recommendation to protect these groups from homelessness and to improve their access to support in homelessness. This is absolutely great to hear this is going to happen. The children, the number of children 5,000 who are in homeless service, and the more than 4,500 women in emergency accommodation are just the tip of the iceberg, according to National Women Council Executive Director Corinne Hassan. Okay, official statistics don't count women in refuge or families sleeping on couches. She said, "We simply don't know how many women and families are in homelessness. What we do know is that domestic violence is a leading cause of women's homelessness, and that the housing crisis is enabling exploitation of women, for example, in sex for rent exploitation." Oh my God. I can't even stress the fact in this information. It is so true. And looking at the homeless crisis or the housing crisis in Ireland, when women are in the refuge centers, they stay there for a period of time. And what I know is that sometimes the stay in the refuge centers also expire. There's a time for, if you stay for a very long time, the refuge centers also say that it is time for that woman and her children to leave the place. And it becomes a difficult situation for them. They have to be trying to look for their houses to move into, and they risk being homeless, and also risk getting exploited by landlords who want to sleep with them in order to get them, give them houses to rent. You will say, does that also happen in Ireland? Yes, it does happen in Ireland, and I know that for a fact. The housing crisis is compounding a shocking level of violence against women, according to the National Women Council Senior Policy Coordinator, Violence Against Women, Ivana Yatchak. Women live in abuse, often with children. Often with children, encounter a system with severely limited availability due to high demand, capable of meeting only short-term emergency accommodation needs. Once the immediate crisis period is over, many survivors are left with no long-term housing options. I said this, and it is the truth. For children already traumatized by domestic violence, instability and moving around between services is profoundly destabilizing. More must be done to keep women and children in their homes and in their communities, to stop them from falling through the crack in the first place. So the publication of the Child and Family Homelessness Action Plan is expected in the coming months. So this is a wonderful, wonderful plan. It's a welcome idea. I know that this has been a long-time issue that have been going on. A lot of women, after being moved from their family home due to domestic abuse, have to move from one refuge center to the next. And most of the time, children are actually in the middle of all of this. And it very psychologically has a lot of impact on their lives. And this, I am so delighted to see that this is now being looked at. And something is going to be done about it. So what do you think? Do you agree that women who like when there's domestic abuse in the home, that the person who is the abuser is the one that should be removed, not the survivors? Because the people who are survivors should be in their own houses, around their own community, and have that support, and should not be the ones at the risk of homelessness. So what do you think about this? Thank you so much for listening. Share this video, like it, and come back here for more.